The Falcon 9 launch was the private company's project to send astronauts into space, but that was just the beginning for SpaceX. With ambitions to launch humans much further than the moon, SpaceX needed a rocket that was much more improved. That's where the Starship comes in. Now, before we begin, remember to like and subscribe to see more tech content every single week. In the December of 2020, the third Starship test rocket was ready and launched. Its upwards trajectory went great, but it didn't stick the landing. They did a belly flop maneuver to help better control the landing, but unfortunately it still came in too fast and crash landed. Musk quoted, "A 1 in 3 chance of it actually landing." This launch was far from a failure though, Musk also stating the fact that SpaceX gathered all the data it needed from the test. This third test made it much further than before. The previous 2 iterations of the Starship simply made tiny launches of about 150 meters.
Now, the part that flew was only the spacecraft, which would house everything needed on a journey. The second, much bigger half is the rocket attached to the bottom, named the Super Heavy. This half would eventually split after the spacecraft portion made it to orbit and return back to Earth by landing vertically, ready to use for the next launch. The part that makes this Starship so special is the fact that both halves can return to Earth for another trip. Musk suggests it's more like an airplane travel, except it's to space, obviously. Pretty cool, right? The fourth test flight for Starship, named SN11, that took place in the March of the following year, also exploded, but in the sky instead of crash landing. This was due to an excess of CH4, which was essentially the propellant for the Raptor engine. And a hard start refers to the ignition where there's too much fuel in the combustion chamber and the pressure is therefore too high, not a good thing for any engine. Simply put, too much fuel equals boom. On the most recent test of May of 2021, the Starship actually managed to stick the landing, and Musk mentioned that they may plan on making the same ship, the SN15, fly again. SpaceX has competition with a couple other companies including Blue Origin and Dynetics, but the future is still looking bright with Musk announcing the first private lunar mission in just 2023. Japanese entrepreneur Yusaku Mizawa and the crew of the Dear Moon will become the first civilian passengers on a lunar Starship mission, including a flyby of the moon during their week-long journey. The Dear Moon project is currently accepting applications for 8 civilians to join the entrepreneur on the Starship flight. Musk says there's going to be a group of civilians going to Mars by 2026, and he hopes for a population of 1 million by 2050. This is going to be an expansive development of at least hundreds of billions of dollars to potentially trillions. Musk intends to make that money by sending 42,000 Starlink satellites into space over the next decade to provide fast and affordable internet to the masses, which will in turn generate a net profit of $30 to $50 billion per year. We get fast internet and they get rockets. Sounds like a win-win situation. Conveniently, aside from just carrying passengers, Starship also has a great use of delivering Starlink satellites to orbit. 400 satellites per flight to be exact, which is a payload capacity of 100 metric tons. Starship is specifically designed to deliver satellites further and at lower cost per launch than the current Falcon vehicles, which can only deliver 60 at a time. With this large compartment, Starship creates possibilities for new missions including space telescopes or anything that your sci-fi imagination can come up with. In the words of Elon Musk, quote, "Mars, here we come." Comment below if you'd live on Mars. And be sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell for more great tech content coming every single week.